Hello, everyone. This is Ed Brenniger, and welcome to the Eddie Network podcast. My friend and my guest today is Phil Gerbyshak. We've known each other a long time. We pass in the night, and but we have a deep appreciation for each other and what we do. And Phil is a dynamic guy, and I hope that he communicates the energy that he brings to everything he does through our conversation today, because that is in many ways a real gift that he has to share with us. So welcome, Phil. Thanks for coming on.
Hey.
And tell us a little bit about who you are and maybe why you are. Maybe that's the
I think that's then what I do, why I am. I think that's great. So for sure. So I'll catch up. We'll start with now and we'll work back. So
Okay.
I'm Phil Gerbyshak. I live in Westchester, Ohio. I've got 3 dogs and 2 kids and 1 wife here in Westchester. My dogs just managed to break through the door, so they're with me here. So 2 of the 3 anyway. So they may pop on camera at some point. But yeah. So I'm a VP of growth at Speaker Flow right now, which means that I work with thought leaders to help them have a done-for-you system so that they can actually do what they love best, which is get their message out there. So that's what I do now. But like, why am I and what am I guess, are good questions, right? So when you and I met, I was writing Slacker Manager and Make It Great years ago. 15 years ago, we figured out, maybe 20 even. So started out there. Was a VP of IT, been a VP of marketing, been a VP of sales training, VP of growth now, I've trained sales enablement, all sorts of stuff. But to your point, right, I think energy, enthusiasm, and positivity infuse everything that I do. I'm not Pollyanna. I don't believe everything is perfect, but I certainly believe that we can learn. We're learning more than, if we're not winning, we're learning. And that I live my life. And so, it's been really fun. I come from an itty bitty town in northern Wisconsin. We had no stoplights when I was growing up. None of the advantages. My dad was a dairy farmer, and my mom cut the cheese for a living. So so that's a little about me.
That's great. And you served in the military too, didn't you?
Oh yeah, right out of high school. Yes, I went in the military. I went in the Navy. I delivered email by hand for the NSA that listens, and now I'm a member of the NSA that talks. Right, the National Speakers Association. So it's really it's been full circle.
That's right. I think that's how we were introduced to each other, through the national speakers, and probably Meredith Powell.
Sure. Yeah. Yep. Love Meredith. Yep. No, I actually think because we both had TypePad blogs years ago. And I think that's actually how we got connected, because I'd write on management leadership and so did you.
That's right. Well, that's great. And you still with the National Speakers Bureau? Or
National Speakers Association? Absolutely. Yep. Still am.
And I think she's the president now, isn't she?
I think so. Yeah, I think she is.
I'm going to have her on in a few weeks. So,
Mare's great. Yep, love Mare.
Yeah, she's great. Well, so what is it that about you that gives you this energy? What's the source of that?
Boy, that's a good question. Well, first, I guess I believe that you get what you give. So for me, if I can give you my energy, I can get yours back. Right. Even if you're, not high juice like me, I love that. Right. We can bounce off each other. I can get some of the energy. I think that's the first thing. Secondly, I'm a grateful person, and I haven't always been. I'm not going to lie. This is fairly new, maybe the last 8 or 10 years. But I really, really try hard to focus on what I'm grateful for, especially when things are going sideways. So for instance, and it's never a big thing. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm always grateful for my wife, and I'm always grateful for my kids. But you know what? Some days, like the other day, my dog took off. He escaped from my arm on the leash. And I'll tell you what, I'm grateful that he knows my voice, because he came back. Now, it took him 10 minutes, but I'm still super grateful because this is a new neighborhood to him. And had he not known my voice, had we not had a good relationship, he could have been gone. Yeah. I don't have any clue. I've been here a month. Yeah. I have no clue. So that gratitude flows through. So I think that's probably the second thing. And then honestly, The third thing is I just don't see there's a choice. This is just how it is. I mean, I know a lot of people who either complain a lot or have super low energy, or because I think we infect people as we come in contact with them. We infect them with our positivity, we infect them with our energy, we infect them with our negativity, we infect them with their energy. So we have a choice. And I realized that my boss said to me once back 15 years ago, Cindy said, if you're not on 100%, if you're like 50%, man, you're like dragging the team down. So you should stay home. Because I never would call in sick. And I was like, well, what do you mean? And she said, listen, your energy when it's up brings the whole department up. And your energy when it's down sucks the life out of the whole team. So stay home. And at first I was offended. I was like, come, what? And then I realized, that's a choice. That's a choice. So I lived that. And really that's why my whole Make It Great philosophy really started. That was really the genesis of that, because, I had to lean into that.
That makes perfect sense, because that's exactly what I see from you, and it's distinctive in a manner that is not just authentic, but it's archetypal. I mean, it's at that level, because a lot of people can generate energy when they need it, but they work at a lower level. But my impression of you all these years is that's where you're going all the time. You're up there, and I like that. And I think about it in terms of how you probably network. You're probably a master networker, because you've never met anyone that's not a friend.
That's right. That's right. This is our first time meeting, Ed.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we've communicated, but this is our
sure. But it's the same way, though, right?
Yeah.
It's the same way. I'm as excited to see you as an old friend. Yes, we've communicated, but this is the first time. I feel you're right, though. That's how I go in a room, right? And I think the difference is we have people that say, hey, I'm here. And I'm not that person. Yeah. Instead, I'm the hi, you're there. It's nice to meet you. That's right.
Yeah, that's exactly that, and that's the way I operate. So tell me this: when you go to a business event, what is your methodology, particularly if you don't know anyone there? How do you perform in that environment with this energy and this approach to life?
Yeah. Well, so first, if I don't know anybody, I have to really work at it to get my juice up, because I do get energy from other people. So I have to listen and pay attention and look for an in. I have to look for an in, and that could be, at the bar, right? As I'm getting a soda or something to drink, right? It could be in the men's room, as we're waiting in line. It could be anywhere, but I have to find one person that I can click with. And I will look for people who wear glasses, so I can comment, like, I love your blue glasses, Ed. Right? I can connect with that. I usually wear cufflinks, so I can connect with that, or people can remark on that. Sometimes they open, and I usually wear bright colored shoes. I wear my signature orange shoes. So I give people an in to talk to me. And then from there, then I can quickly find something in common, because I can pay attention. I love to listen to people. I don't think I have to be the most interesting guy in the room. I want to be the most interested guy in the room.
I agree.
It's really important.
Absolutely. Totally agree. I mean, and that's why I'm doing this podcast, because I am interested in everybody out there. So I will walk into a room where I don't know anyone, and my goal is to have a conversation with everyone in the room. So I'm going to ask them questions. I don't care if they know who or even remember who I am, but I will remember them, and I will go ask them a question, and it's the same thing. You had cufflinks, you have bright colored shoes, you have your white glasses. I mean, all of those things are attractive things, which people may make a comment. Well, what what's your signature dress? That sort of thing. It doesn't really matter, because it is an introduction into a conversation where something deeper can come from it.
That's right. That's right. And again, just paying attention to people. People love to talk about themselves. If they, especially if they're at a networking event, like people don't go to just hide in the corner and drink overpriced drinks and eat, half warm hot dogs. That's
Right.
not why people go. People are going to connect. So if they are going to connect, just take an interest in them. Be really interested in who the heck they are and what, why are they? And learn some things. The whole one of the best intros that I've ever used is the "Where are you from?" And
Yeah.
people will say, right? So, do you mean where do I live now, or where did I grow up, or where did I go to college? And my answer is always, well, yes. Well, tell me about all those things.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
holy crap, people just woo, they open up, man.
Same here. Same here. So I've been out here in Wyoming for a month now, and I was up in Manhattan, Montana, which is west of Bozeman, and I was at a steak place there called Manhattan Bar, and I'm sitting at the bar, and I'm in the middle of my dinner, and this guy comes down and sits down, and he says, "That looks good." I says, "It is." He says, "What is it?" "Well, it's the New York strip." He says, "Okay, that's what I'm going to get." So he orders that, and he's talking with the guy that's on the other side of him. And then that guy leaves, and then we start talking, and all of a sudden we're in a consulting conversation, and we're talking. We're talking business, and and it didn't take much to get there. Common. We both like steak, both like Brussels sprouts. And all of a sudden we're into a really deep conversation, and it's that sort of thing that happens. And I know that he left with the sense that this was really valuable. I left with that same sense that this was really valuable. I have his card, he has my card, and we, maybe we'll reconnect again.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, you find what's in common. Something silly like Brussels sprouts, which not everybody loves, by the way. I do. I'm with you. I'd be talking about Brussels sprouts, right? But the people who do, they're passionate about Brussels sprouts. Most people aren't like, yeah, they're okay, right? They either love them or they're like, yeah, I hate Brussels sprouts. Either way, that's a connector.
But I have a story about Brussels sprouts.
Oh, let's hear it.
So growing up, so I was probably 5 or 6 years old, maybe 7 years old, and my mother made Brussels sprouts. She steamed them. I don't know if you ever had steamed Brussels sprouts. They really are awful, and I refused to eat them. And my father said, he forced me to eat them, but he did not eat them. And so that was always something that we had to work through all the time, And I don't think she ever cooked Brussels sprouts after that point. But then, but roasted Brussels sprouts, fried Brussels sprouts, oh, they're the best. So
see, I like them all. I like them all. I even like the roast. I even like the boiled ones. So growing up, first grade, that was the extra because most of the kids didn't like them. So I was a hungry little kid. So I ate 3, 4, 5 helpings of Brussels sprouts. I loved them.
Yeah, my dad and I laughed about that later on in life, and it was kind of an embarrassing thing for him, but we got through it all, and it bonded us together because we at that point in time we both didn't like Brussels sprouts, so it was one of those things.
Sure.
But that's what's can happen, and so do you do any coaching in the context of what you're doing with these companies?
Not with Speaker Flow, not formally, but yeah, I do some on the side. I've got a couple I'm clients. I love to coach. I love to help. I'm more of a kind of part consultant, part coach, right? I'm not the traditional coach that's going to say, well, look inside your heart. Like, tell me what you think. No, I'm going to be more consultative in my coaching, but yeah, for sure. And I do that informally too.
So what do you see as kind of the dominant needs that people are having the dominant needs that people are bringing to you when they say, would you be my coach or consult with me for a time?
Well, some people are just afraid of tech. And so that's one thing that I can help with. I can make things really simple. I can make things really approachable. I can help them find a system that will work for them. Often they'll say, Phil, I don't understand how this all works together. Or they might think small instead of big. So by that, I mean, they might think, well, I published a book. Well, that's nice. I've published 7 of them. I'm not trying to denigrate anybody who published one book or 7 books or 70 books, but you have to integrate it into your work. Like, what are you doing with that? Right. So for me, I can turn just about anything into a workable system. I'm there for accountability. Sometimes people need that. They just need somebody that's going to be out with them every Tuesday and say, hey, so what'd you do last week? What are you going to do this week? And what got in your way of getting things done?
Are you saying that you see that some of these people that come to you have a collection of things, but they're not integrated into something whole?
That's right. Yep, that's right. So they might have a website, or they might not. They might have an email marketing list, or they might not. They might have, they might have some video, or they might not. They might have social media, or they might not. And none of that really is connected at all. They don't think about how those work as a whole. So I can help with that.
So are they coming to you to talk about AI?
Some, yeah. I think a lot of times they don't even know to ask about AI, but I can introduce that as an accelerant for them. I mean, much like email marketing is an accelerant, AI is an accelerant too, because AI allows you to get the repetitive stuff done or to ideate, right? If I put in there, create me a content marketing strategy about something, it's going to come up with a bunch of things. Now, I'm not do all those. I mean, I'd agree with all of them, but it gives me a starting point that I can then think from, or give me 12 ideas about leadership that I might want to write about. What's 12 books about leadership that are less known. I don't want the bestsellers. I mean, I don't want to hear about John Maxwell's latest book. I'm not saying it's bad. It's not what I'm trying to say, but everybody's probably read that book.
Yeah.
That's if I'm a leadership person, so I want to hear something maybe a little lesser known than that.
You want to break out of the box that
That's
often
right.
the people get locked into.
That's right.
And it's curious to me how they find themselves in that box. And I wonder, I do wonder about this, because it seems to me that there's something missing from their early years where they never learned how to kind of take charge of their life. They didn't learn how to say, I want to learn this, or I want to do this. And they just kind of were floating, kind of doing whatever was suggested to them. And so they never learned how to really think for themselves.
Yeah. Well, and they're not curious, right? I think that's the key. Even more than think for themselves, it's about curiosity. I mean, I want to go deeper than just the standard stories. I mean, there's a lot of standard stories out there, right? I mean, customer service. I've talked to people that still use Zappos as an example. I wouldn't use Zappos as an example. Heck, I wouldn't have probably used Zappos as an example 10 years ago, but people still use that. So I think, we have to be more curious. I think also the news, the mainstream spoon feeds us. I mean, if we think about the top 10 or 20 news sources, they spoon feed us stuff that's either going to make us outraged or make us buy more. Well, that's not helpful. That's not helpful. I have, Ed, I'll tell you, I got cable for the first time in 6 or 7 years. I have it because I figured, you know what? I'm in the Midwest now. I'm going to want to watch some football on Sundays, maybe some Monday night football. Now it's Thursday night too, and Saturday morning, and too much football. But anyway, I thought I'd want to watch some, but I don't watch the news. I don't watch the mainstream stuff. That's not of interest to me. I'd rather read some unique person on Substack. I'd rather read your stuff on Substack than I would rather watch the news. It's more thought provoking, right? I want to think. I'm not looking to be spoon fed. I want to think. I want to be curious. So yeah.
Well, just applying your perspective to what I've been doing. So give a little background. So in 2004, I started my first blog, my typepads, Leading Questions. And I spent about 5 years commenting on other people's writings. And then I began to quickly leave that behind and start creating my own content. And that was a very intentional transition that happened after the recession, and to a large extent because I lost all my clients in about 6 weeks. So I started writing my own stuff, and it led to 2016 when I hired a firm to help me produce my first book. I didn't know how to write a book. I didn't know how to approach it in terms of writing a book that already had a marketing plan built in, all of that. And and so when 2018 came, when the book was ready to be published, we stopped the old weblog and started a new one, and we were generating content, with and we started a new mail list, or a new MailChimp list. And this is what happened. So right off the bat, I had 80 people sign up for my mailing list. And 5 months later, when we posted the book, I still had only 80 people. So there was no new signups over that period of time. And the question is, what was going on? We were putting out content, we were doing social media stuff, but it wasn't resonating with people. There was no one out there seeking to, they were not anticipating this book that I was writing. And so the book came out, we sold 41 copies on the first day. Yeah, I was disappointed, but I was not surprised. And so I spent a year doing book events. That didn't generate an audience. And then in January of last year, I started writing on Substack. I transferred my 360 name MailChimp address list to Substack, and immediately it dropped down to 335. I was going in the wrong direction, but my commitment was to write what I wanted to write, and particularly at the length that I wanted to write. So 1,500 words to 4,000 words, and several times a week. And I was crunching. So at the end of the year, I had produced over 200,000 words, which is a lot of material.
Awesome.
But it was about this time last year that the numbers began to grow. And so now I'm almost at 780 after being at 335, almost a year ago. And it's been a very interesting process to try to understand, well, what's the difference between what I was doing then and what the difference is now. And I don't think there's any difference in I don't think what I have done has actually made the difference. I think the world has changed, and therefore the time is ready for this sort of thing that I was doing. So how do you see some of that way?
Yeah, I do. I think, the whole happy AF that I write about happiness and how to generate your own energy.
Yeah,
I think people are ready for. I think I've got 250 people. I've been doing it about a year as well. I do a terrible job of promoting it, so I need to work on that. But yeah, I think people are interested. Some people are interested in going deeper. Some people are interested in the fact that there's email, and that there's also a nice app. And I think that's important as well. So I think if we combine that, right, more depth, we see an app that is really slick. And the fact that it goes out via email without anything I have to do, and on Substack, it actually prompts people every article to subscribe, sign up, whatever, without me having to be annoying, is really nice. It just does that. It reminds me, like, dude, add a subscription link. And I don't feel guilty about that. Whereas before, that would kind of bug me. So yeah, my growth is slow, but I'm very happy with it. I think it's great. And frankly, it feels good to write again. And now that there's, for lack of a better term, now there's a blog roll like it used to be. I feel it's more community based than I used to. It
does have the feel of the 2000s again.
Yeah.
And I really like that. And and the starting the podcast was also generated more signups. But here's the thing, and I'm curious as to what you think about this. I think that the biggest impact has been posting all this stuff to LinkedIn. And
really?
Yes. And the people that are signing up for Substack and for the podcast from LinkedIn is significant every week. And I think it's because the people who I'm interviewing on the podcast are then taking the LinkedIn version and posting it to their LinkedIn. And so all their followers find it, and then they want to follow what I'm doing. So this is totally opposite of everything I've experienced on social media. And so I'm seeing that in this sense, when you're using LinkedIn in this way, as a vehicle for networking, not the traditional introductions and that sort of thing, but actually I'm going to post something and invite people to kind of network with me, come talk with me, do that sort of thing. That's something which people are actually looking for today.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm not I'll tell you, I guess I've kind of split my audience, right? Because I do I've got my positivity on my Happy AF blog, right? beahappyaf.com is one place. And then on LinkedIn, I read about sales and leadership more. And my podcast is a sales leadership show. And I guess at some point, right, I should probably kind of cross streams like the Ghostbusters and try to make them a little more powerful, because I haven't done that, Ed. And you're probably right, because I've got 3,500 people on LinkedIn that read my Thursday news. And then Mondays and Fridays, I write on Substack. And then Tuesdays is my podcast. So maybe I should, that's a good suggestion. I haven't played with it that way.
And it's just the way I do the podcast, which is I treat it as a networking experiment or a networking demonstration. So in this case, I'm asking you, who do you know that you think I should know, because they would be a good person to interview, and so you introduce me to them.
Oh, there you go.
And then I do the interview with them, and I say, who do you know that? So this is the way this also grows. So the network effect of asking people for introductions of up to other people, I think has a powerful effect right now. Will it have that in 5 years? I don't know, but right now it has I think a powerful effect.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to take that as a challenge, and I'm going to put that on my I'm going to start asking that question on my podcast.
So just to kind of illustrate this at a deeper level, so in 1995, our family moved from West Virginia, where I had been working at a college, to Western North Carolina, where I opened a consulting business. And never been a consultant, never run a business, but I knew how to talk to people. And I went there with three names from 3 different people in West Virginia. I called them up. I said, I'd like to come tell you what I'm interested in doing. They said, okay. So I went by. I said, I'm interested in doing community development through leadership development. And who do you know that you think would be interested in this? And would you introduce me? And these 3 guys each gave me between 10 and 15 names and phone numbers. I called all those people up. I either talked to them on the phone or went and visited them. And so, that list of people just grew exponentially. And all my business over the last 28 years has come through that sort of relationship mining process.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, now with Speaker Flow, I'm talking to other speakers like me, like you, right? People who get up and use their voice, and I air quotes with voice, right? Because it could be their writing or whatever, right? To get their thoughts out there, to really, to generate revenue. And thankfully, right, there are people that I've gotten to know over the last 20 years, to your point, right? That and I'm still giving, right? Like my last book, we're giving it away on Speaker Flow. I mean, it's still on Amazon. People can go buy it. But if that's something that people want to get a hold of, right? There's ways that I'm giving it away. So yeah, I think that's the whole goal. I want to help. I want to, I sign many of my emails, at your service, because I mean that, right? Like I want to be helpful. I've always done my best to be a servant leader, whatever that, whatever I do.
Well, that's been obvious all along from my perspective. I see you as not just a guy running a business, but leading a business. If we could put it that way. And and that's what distinguishes the people who survive and the people who don't, I would say. So yeah, it's a very interesting time, and all this energy that we've been talking about is really key to making people feel a sense of positivity and hope. I mean, it's interesting that the number of people I asked, and I'll probably ask this before we're done, who I'm interviewing on the podcast. I said, well, how do you feel about hope? Do you have hope for the future? And if so, what does that hope look like? And some, and I can tell that some of these folks, I'm catching them off guard. Actually, I like doing that because it causes them to think. And when they ask, when their responses are always just so good, because it's coming from somewhere deep inside of them rather than just kind of a learned response to this. But people are struggling with this idea of what their hope is for the future. And when you ask them what that hope is, it really becomes something that they kind of, oh yeah. And I think what you're talking about positivity is kind of one of the sources of hope.
Yeah, I think so too. I think, again, believing, I don't want to say that I believe everything happens for a reason, because I think that's hokey crap. I don't believe that's true, but I believe everything that happens has a reason, right? There's a big difference for me. So I'm going to learn from it or I'm going to win. I don't care.
Yeah.
And I mean that in everything that happens to me. I'm going to win or I'm going to learn. Don't care. And so with that, that's a positive mindset. That's a growth mindset. And I think that's super important. I do think we can learn that. I haven't always been that way. So I prove that you can learn that. But yeah, there's gotta be something else, something more to this, because I don't understand everything. I'm not Neil deGrasse Tyson. I don't understand physics and stuff like that, right? I mean, I just don't, and that's okay. So there's got to be something that's bigger than me that I've got to understand. So I'm always looking for that. I'm always looking to learn more.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on that. So so I'm also curious about this because you've done something which a lot of people have not done, but many of us have, which you have changed jobs quite often, and you've been in transition for the past 20 years in a pretty regular fashion. So tell us about what is it about this life of transition which has been meaningful for you, and what you've learned from it.
Well, I think it's reinvention more than even transition.
Okay.
Because I've thrown away like for instance, my marketing list, I've thrown it away many times, Ed. This new one that's why I have 226 subscribers. I mean, last time I threw it away, I had like 8,800 people. I don't even know, I didn't even save the list. Like, it's gone.
Yeah.
I didn't even care. So I'm curious by design. I mean, I started out my career in the Navy, and I really thought email was fake. I thought internet was fake. And then I went to college and I found out the internet was real and it was getting faster. And I was like, okay, well, there's more here, and I remember, and I say this tongue in cheek, but kind of seriously, like, I discovered Google for the state of Wisconsin. It was there weren't, Yahoo and Alta Vista and Hotbot and Lycos. They were all the search engines. And so I searched on one of them, I don't remember which one, for search engines, and it came up with Google. And I was like, oh, this is cool. I'm feeling lucky. I get this. This is kind of neat. And I always thought about that, right? Like, okay, I'm feeling lucky. All right, cool. So I transitioned from Navy to being a teacher to tech support and sales to being a stockbroker. From there, back after 9/11 happened, back in technology, back talking to people, supporting their needs. Blogs popped up. I kind of reinvented myself there with that. And I guess I've always seen myself as someone who is all about learning and all about sharing what they learn. And I got to back up. That's not true. I haven't always saw myself as a sharer, but I've always seen myself as a learner. But I got challenged by two people that really helped me kind of reinvent. One was Ron Munz. Ron Munz said, you know, you need pickups, and I was good at pickups. I could learn from anywhere, anybody, anywhere, anytime, anyhow. I can learn, but drop offs. What am I sharing? What am I doing? And then Kirk Wiesler really challenged me, and he said, "Dude, you read so many books. How many are you sharing with other people?" And at the time, Ed, the answer was zero.
Yeah.
Like I didn't share anybody. It was almost like I had my own little secret weapon here, and I didn't really want to share. And Kirk challenged me. He said, "Dude, you know, you really want to make an impact. You got to share. Got to share your love, man." And about that time, you know, Tim Sanders' "Love Is the Killer" app came out. You know, being a love cat totally kind of defined me. Steve Farber's, you know, "Do What You Love in the Service of Those Who Love What You Do," like these, and Seth Godin, like all these things swirling around my head. I just saw, you know what, whatever it is, if this is about people, I can do it. And I have this unshakable belief that if it's about people, I can do it. So whether it was sales or marketing or IT or back in sales or training or sales enablement or writing or podcasting or social media or whatever the heck it is. I mean, I learned about myself that as long as I'm learning and as long as I'm sharing, I'm living. This is the life I want to live. I want to be a service to people. And so I took Farber's quote to heart. And if we bust that apart, right, do what you love, seems very obvious. And so it on the other end, though, love what you do, right? People who are your fans and appreciate you, those two make a lot of sense. And then we throw the middle piece there, in the service of. And I think for me, that's the key phrase, in the service of. I always want to be of service, of use. And that's why I guess it's who I am, why I am, more than it is what I do. Because my title now, VP of Growth, I don't care. Like, and I don't mean it like I don't appreciate it, but what I mean is that doesn't define me. My titles never define me. I try my best. I should be like VP of Servant Leadership, because that's really what I try to do.
It's really moving, Phil. It's really moving, because I think that there are many people who aspire to what you are doing, but they don't know how to get there, and they don't because they haven't had. I mean, frankly, what you're saying is exactly the way I view myself. You know, a servant to the people that I care about, and we encounter these people. We encounter people that we want to serve and want to care about. We want them to advance, but they're not prepared for us. They're not ready for us. And I think this was true for most of my career. They weren't ready for what I had to offer them. I would never pitch a business contract based on my being a minister. I never did that. I kept a hard separation, but I was often hired because of that, because they felt like, okay, he'll understand how to deal with people. I think this is not just a moment in time or just your story or my story. I think this is a transition that is going to emerge as significant in the world, because the structures of the world are failing. And what do we have to fall back on? The people who care about us ultimately. And that to me is very gratifying, and it's exciting. And so I wonder, and I'm wondering out loud, so you can answer this if you want to, but I wonder how people can come to see their lives in this way, of being a servant rather than being a consumer or being an exploiter or just being a cog in the machine. Because I think these are kind of ways that people look at it themselves. And what we're really are talking about, how do we come to serve the people that we know and to serve the companies and the communities where we live?
Well, I think, your point earlier, I think, is important, and that we have to be there for the people that care about us. But I would also remind us that we have to be there for the people that we care about, because we don't want to be I think
Yes.
often we are either consumer or consumed as opposed to service, right? So meaning I have plenty of my friends who feel like that they're used by the system, right? Not of service, but just completely consumed by the system. And I know other people, to your point, that just consume. So I'd like to offer the service really is where it's at. And how do we start that? I want you to think of yourself, if you're listening to this, my friends, I want you to think of yourself as someone of use, someone that can be renewed, someone that can continue to get energy. I want you to maybe don't think of yourself as me, but think of how like those candles that people blow out and they come back to life. I want you to think of yourself as that, but think of yourself as useful and full of use, and it is renewable and it is rechargeable. I mean, if the batteries on our phone can be recharged, the batteries in our heart can be recharged. So don't let yourself be consumed, but do know that you're here for a purpose and a use. And once you can just really own that and believe that in your heart, because it's true, not because I said it, but because it's true. Once you own that, you're going to feel a lot better when people ask you for help. And this is where I sometimes forget, when I ask others for help, because sometimes the gift that I have is that I asked someone for help and they're able to give it to me. Because here's the thing, we all have amazing gifts. Sometimes we get asked, though, in areas of weakness, and it hurts to give there.
Yeah.
But that's because we haven't shared where we're gifted. So I just want to encourage folks, I guess, to be of service means understand who you are, understand your gift. I mean, heck, I'm strong, but you don't have me. I'm not doing things that require physical strength. I do stuff that requires people, and because I can help with that. That's my great gifting, is in people and understanding that. But heck, that's a lot of trial and error, but it got started because I started being curious about it, and I started asking questions about how I could help. So I don't know. Does that make any sense, Ed?
It's very powerful. One of the most powerful statements that we've had on the podcast. And thank you. I think it's worthy of saying this to everyone that's watching, that if you feel something about this, that there's something real and authentic about it, but you don't understand what that means, it may be because you've not been able to be aware of how this actually functions in your life already, that there are people who are already in relationship with you, who care about you and they serve you. And it may be, and you said this early on, it may be that your first step in kind of recognizing this part of you is to become grateful and to thank those people who love you and who care for you, whether they're at work or in your family. Go to them and say thank you for the care that you bring to my life. And it's embarrassing to do that, but it also is a transition of significance, because what you're saying is that I'm not whole, I'm not always strong, I have needs, and I'm recognizing that you have given to me in a way that has made my life better. If we're able to have this kind of conversation, I think, I'm just thinking about this, have this conversation in a business context, a lot of things will change pretty rapidly. But it requires some humility, it requires some, maybe even eating crow to get there. But I think this is, I do think this is a trend that's going to accelerate in the future, because people are, I mean, I think this is why my numbers have grown, is because this is part of the message. But I think that people desire this kind of authentic relationship. And they want to be in a place where they are known for who they actually are, and not judged, and they're not put down, they're not exploited. And how do we create the business structures where this is no longer the case? I think this is the challenge that's before us as people who do business work.
Yeah, well, it starts with each of us.
Yeah,
We each have a choice, right? We can lead from love, and love is a verb. Love is not just a, it's not just a noun. Love is a verb, man. We got to choose love. Choose to love and give love and be love, and to allow others to love us as well. I again, that was hard for me, Ed. I've struggled with that for a long time, man. I didn't let people give, when they'd give me gifts, no, thank you.
me too.
Ugh. And I'll tell you, denying others of giving me gifts is a great way to not be grateful. So thank you. That's those two words are powerful.
Well, this has been a fantastic conversation. I didn't know that it would go to this depth. I'm extraordinarily grateful for you and your willingness to open yourself up to us. It shows you the quality of the man that you are. And so I thank you for being here. Friends, if you want to have a conversation about this, you can reach out to Phil, or you can reach out to me, and we'll be glad to talk with you. And whatever comes from that, it comes from that. But without any expectation, I think we just are glad to encourage people to venture down this road, become more curious, and go venture down this road. So, by the way, did you know the scene from Ted Lasso about be curious, not judgmental? You know
Yeah.
that? Yeah. That's the core of that whole show. And he's a guy who serves, and he loves his team and the owners and all the fans and
his coaches.
And if you need an understanding of what we're talking about, there's a visual picture, a story that will be helpful. Okay, Phil, thanks for being on the show. We'll put some show notes for you in terms of how people can find you, and everyone. Thank you for watching, and look forward to seeing you next time here on the Eddie Nupper podcast. Thank you. Goodbye.